Hey everybody, we are live.
Welcome to day one of lunch week at OpenSauce, where every day at 12 p.m. Central Time, lunchtime is lunchtime. I'm Becca. I'm the developer experience lead at OpenSauce, where we're working to support people working in the open and to empower them to do their best in open source. So thank you so much for being here with us today as we talk about our very first lunchtime snack, I guess, our very first
Yeah,
meal.
yeah,
And
it sounds tasty.
yeah, oh, it's definitely we've cooked up something good for you. So I'm gonna toss it over to my teammate Nick and then to one of our biggest contributors on this lunchtime meal, Ayu.
Cool, cool. Yeah, hey everybody, my name's Nick Taylor. I'm a senior software engineer over at OpenSauce working with Becca, and I'm super excited for lunch week. I had some pizza yesterday and the day before, so I don't know what I'm eating today, but prediction I might be 3 for 3. Ayu, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. So I'm Ayu. I'm the documentation lead at the Virtual Coffee community, part of the documentation team at Open Source. Yeah, I mean, like it's lunch for you all, but I just got my dinner. So, yeah,
We
I
like to say
think.
it's lunchtime somewhere. So
It's not quite
Yeah.
lunchtime here.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. Well, you could have pizza for breakfast, I guess. You could call it
Uh,
brunch. I don't know. Start at 3.
sure. Sure.
Yeah,
and
so I
welcome,
think it's
Jessica.
hey.
Oh, go ahead, Ayu. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, like it's Jessica now. I think I passed to Jessica.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Jessica,
Sorry.
welcome. Give us a
Hi.
little intro.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Jessica Wilkins. Hopefully you can hear me all right there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I work at Free Co-Camp, their curriculum team there, and just happy to be here and share my whatever I'm sharing today about being a maintainer. So yeah.
Cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
so,
Awesome.
um go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say I'm gonna shrink our heads a little bit in the screen because we normally don't have 4 people, so I just so we can have a little more real estate for the actual when we show some stuff off here. But all right, sorry, go ahead, Becca.
Yeah, so if anybody has questions at any time, we'll try and keep up with the chat, so feel free to put them in there. But today, we're really excited to be kicking off lunch week with the intro course for maintainers, becoming a maintainer. And I think, it's a really nice maybe appetizer actually for the rest of lunch week because we believe that education is really important and we really believe in supporting open source maintainers. So as part of that, we kind of developed this idea. We had initially an intro to contributing course, which you can still take today, and we'll link these things in the chat as well. Um, and we decided that, this would be a good next step. So Jessica, and I kind of started working on this, not in the open. We just wanted to be able to brainstorm together and to be able to iterate on the process and figure out like what really matters for open source maintainers and how can we teach whether you're a new maintainer, you're someone that's been in tech for a while and you're maintaining your first project, or hey, maybe you've been maintaining something for a while and you just don't know about all of the power ups that are now available to you. So, this is kind of how the process started. And I want to send it over to Ayu to talk a little bit more about, how we kind of brainstormed what the course would be like and how we identified what would be most important.
Okay, so I think we started this back, I don't know, November, December, somewhere like that, right? And I think that you already have the outline, Becca. And then we try to expand like how to set up the repository and then how to um, communicate with contributors. I think that's the most important is that folks sometimes don't know like where to start, how to write a README, what to put in the README, and then like for example that the COC, right, the code of conduct, like how can I write it from scratch? But actually, it's not. You don't need to write it from scratch and things like that. And then also like how to communicate, especially in open source, most of communication are async. So how can we, like put that into the course and what things to notice, like to pay attention to, so that we can communicate better in a sync way. I think that, and then I don't know if you want to add more, Jessica.
Sure. Yeah, I think you covered a lot of how we went about it there, and I think we also just drew a lot from our own personal experiences because we've had a lot of experience with maintaining different repositories, and so thinking about, oh, we really should cover this, or we really should have a separate chapter for this situation, and so we're just pulling from our own experiences and thinking about how it could help other maintainers. But we think that this guide is just going to help a lot of people because there's a lot of new maintainers out there, and there's a lot of stuff to kind of juggle. And then also, if you've been maintaining repositories for a while, sometimes there's things that can still be missing, and like, oh, I need to handle this, or how do I handle this given situation with a contributor, or how do I move up a regular contributor to a maintainer, or how do I, maybe there's contributors that haven't been active that long. How do I move them, back to just like a regular contributor, whatever the situation is. So having kind of like a guide to deal with all those different situations, so you don't have to like juggle it around in your head. You could just refer to this guide and allow it'll just help you to grow your repositories there.
I was just gonna apologize, Becca. I'm at my parents' cottage streaming, and they have a rotary phone, and that's what was ringing before. I had to, I had to, I you can't even pull out the cord out of it, so I had to go under the desk. So, anyways, apologies for that. It's not every day you hear a rotary phone going off, and if you don't believe me, folks, it's literally right here. So, anyways, I
Oh,
digress.
right. Yeah,
Sorry.
no, sorry. I think that's hilarious. I love it. Um, yeah, okay, so that's kind of like the process behind it, and I think that one of the things we were aware of is being able to grow into the project. So there are definitely checklists out there for becoming a new maintainer. But I feel like from what I've learned about it, there aren't tons of resources about how to grow as a maintainer. So I'm going to send it to Jessica first and then to IU. Do you want to talk about like some of the things that you felt were important or you've learned as a maintainer that you were able to bring to this course to help others grow into it?
Yeah, I think one of the main things was how do you work with, because I think for a lot of repositories is that somebody finds your repo, they start contributing to it, but then they want to stick around longer, but then it's like, okay, how do we keep having issue? We should keep creating issues for them, or how do we keep them engaged with our project so they want to stick around? And so we did want to add in some things within the guide on how to help contributors like grow with the project, and then kind of help maintainers build out that sense of community with that project there. And so I just relied a lot on like my experiences with like free cocamp and other repositories on how do we keep the community engaged with our repositories and keep interested, and how do we build up that community and introduce them. And so there's chapters on like how to introduce people to like your Discord community and Slack groups, and how to increase participation and keep them coming back and wanting to contribute and make them feel like they have a voice within that, because that's a huge part of maintaining. Because of course you can whip up a whole bunch of issues here or there, but how do you keep that going long term, and growing out that repository? And because some of those contributors will turn into just regular members and will be longtime contributors, and so how do you make that transition from just like a regular occasional contributor to like a long term, and kind of helping maintainers like work through that process as well.
Yeah, and as for me, I haven't been a maintainer for that long. I think it's been 6 months now. This month, so my experience probably is quite different with Jessica, and most of the repositories that I maintain are for beginners. So when the process of like working with this course is really also like putting my knowledge, putting my experience, my own experience into it, but also I learned like so many things from the content itself. like from like Jessica's experience and then your experience, Becca, and things like
Hey,
that. Yeah,
just real quick, Nick,
yeah.
we can see all the things that you're doing on your screen, and I just wanted to make sure that was intentional.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Don't worry, I'm not doing anything shady. It's my. I have browsers on the other side, and I was trying to grab a link, and it switched the thing. So, let me go back to the home page. Sorry about that.
No, this is
It's
good. If
I'm
you
a
want to leave it on that page, the nurturing the
okay.
future of open source maintainers, we can hang
Okay.
out there.
Yeah. No, like I
Okay.
said, I'm not at my usual spot, and anyways, I'm not stressed out. I'm just in a little out of my element because things aren't where they are right now. So,
Things
anyways,
are quite
so
different.
yeah. So
Yeah,
apologies, everybody.
no worries. Yeah, so I mean, like, my own experience is quite different, and I mean, I learned a lot as well from your experience, Becca and Jessica, what you put in there. And I chime in as well there. Like, for example, if I'm in this position, what I'm going to do, like what, for myself, the communication is the very important thing in becoming a maintainer. Like on daily basis, I regularly like reminding new contributors, like to, for example, fill in the PR template or issue form, right? And from there, like I usually at the beginning of my maintainer phase, I write them like a lot, like always writing all the responses. But then I learned that we can use, for example, the save reply, right, to save our time and modify it. So yeah, I think that's how I, like do this course as well.
Yeah, I like really appreciate all of the thought that went into this. And I think that another one of the challenges that we had when creating this course was finding the right organization because there was a lot of overlap of information and be like, oh, I think we should have this thing and be like, well, that's already in this chapter, you know? And I think like being able to iron that out and present it in a way that's useful to new maintainers. And I also want to say this is kind of a tangent, but I think that this course is also for people that want to contribute to open source as well. The ideal audience is maintainers, but if you're new to contributing and you're not really sure what maintainers do, this gives you a really good understanding and educates you in a way that helps you maybe to at the very least have more empathy for maintainers out there and say like, wow, there's all this stuff that's going on. It can also help you to write issues like, hey, I noticed that you're replying the same thing to people every time. You might benefit from having a saved reply, or you're closing a lot of issues. You might be helped by having an issue form out there. So, I think just in general, although this says for becoming a maintainer, it's useful for anybody that's interested in being part of the open source ecosystem and being able to chat through this stuff. So I want to say that I think that that's worth it. And part of the blog post that I wrote that Nick has up on the screen there too is kind of generally talking about like why is it important to educate new open source maintainers, and one of the reasons is 90% of companies use open source software, and it's our job to be supporting everyone in open source. And there is an issue with supporting maintainers. There's a lot of challenges that they face out there. But I think if we start at the beginning, and this is kind of why this is the beginning of lunch week, is because let's start with supporting people at day one and to continue to support them through their open source journey. Um, so I think that, that's important. And that's one of the things I talk about in that post. And, maybe the next thing we should do is kind of jump into looking at the course and seeing all of the information that we're providing to folks. And everybody can kind of talk through one of the chapters, especially if it was a chapter that you found to be your favorite one.
Cool. Is you want me to go straight to the repo now?
Yeah. If you go to the intro.opensauce.pizza,
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Boom. Yes or no? I'm typing
Robodom
on my
says, I'm
screen.
very interested in being a contributor to an open source project, but I'm fairly new to the tech industry. So looking forward to check out this resource. And I will also say that you should check out so we have 2 courses right now. We have the intro to open source course. So that would be a really great place to start. And that also will get you your first pull request and provide you with a path to keep continuing your open source journey. So check that out. And then Nick, if you just want to hit that courses tab at the top, you can access our maintainer course that way.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Actually, go to the nav bar. Oh, well, you can do it that way too. But
Okay. Yeah,
that
which one
links
do you
to
want me to
the README. It doesn't open the course, so you have to actually click the link. So the other fun fact about this is done in Docsify, but we do have plans on changing how we're serving this project. So we're looking into using Docusaurus, which we use for our docs, or using Starlight from Astro.
Okay.
There are some things that are maybe not ideal, but we have done actually a facelift to the course. It looks, I think, prettier than it did before. And we worked on the accessibility as well to make sure that this was accessible to as many folks as possible.
Yeah, no, it does look, it looks a lot fresher, I find. Yeah, it looks really great.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk us through just a little bit about what folks can expect from the introduction and as they're getting started with the course?
Yeah, sure. So for the introduction is what is maintainer and the task of being a maintainer, right? And then the next would be how to set up your project. Like what kind of license do you need? How to choose license, and then how to write a README. What do you need to include in a README? And then the contributing guidelines and so on. So I'm not seeing the course here, so it's a little bit difficult. But maybe you can.
Oh,
It
you
looks
can't
like
see
the
the course?
No,
intro course. Yeah.
Say,
It looks like it's the
oh, that's the
one.
intro. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the intro course.
Uh,
I'm
what's
going
the
to shoot you
actual link?
The
Yeah, shoot
Um
me the link.
yeah.
it's in Slack.
Okay, cool.
The intro course is good too,
Okay.
so you should check that out. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for supporting me today, folks. I'm a little out of my element. All right. This is that's still what you sent me in Slack, Becca. Is that right?
Yeah. I think that's one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did say about how to set up your open source project, and it will walk you through like how to set up the whole project with the README, with the contributing guidelines, the code of conduct, and things like that. And how to handle open issues and pull requests. So how can a maintainer handle managing the issues and also the pull requests? How to communicate and collaborate effectively. This is like one of my not favorite favorite chapter, but I think that it's really important to have not only for maintainers but also for contributors. So if you contribute to open source, I think this particular chapter would really help you in communicating open source. Maybe Jessica, you can continue from here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of my favorites is actually the maintainer power ups chapter, which is it's right there, right below the community one. And so I really like that one just because there's so many tools to help you, and I think sometimes people want to like handle everything themselves, but there's so many GitHub actions, there's so many automated things that you can do, and so it's just kind of like that balance between when to automate versus when not to automate. But a lot of times there's certain things that are taking up, they might seem like small little actions, like I was talking about earlier, where it's like, oh, I'm just going to reply to a whole bunch of people. And that's what I did when I first started maintaining. But then it took up so much time because in the moment it seems like, oh, this is just, 20, 30 seconds just replying. And then it adds up pretty quickly. And you're just like, we could automate that. So either using like saved
Yeah.
replies or the free CodeCamp repo we have, we call it CamperBot, and it has all these automated GitHub actions based on what certain contributors are doing. And it's really helped us out with like cleaning up like spam posts, or if somebody needs help with something and they're failing tests, then there's an automated response that'll be like, hey, you're failing this, or you shouldn't change these translations, and reach out in the Discord or whatever. And so that's really helped us time wise there. And so like that would be my advice for a lot of either new maintainers or existing maintainers, is to really look into different ways that you can automate your life. You can't automate everything, of course, but there's a lot of things that can help you. And even if it's just smaller things that you can automate and write your own GitHub actions. And the cool thing is, like, you don't have to be like an expert in GitHub actions. Like, there's tons already written for you. And so you could just kind of rely on what's already out there within the like GitHub marketplace, and then just use that in your project.
Yeah, that's such a good point about the GitHub Actions. It's such a huge ecosystem, and there was tons like I use some automations even for my own README, and it's like I was like, should I write one? And then I was like, nope, there's already one that does that, so it pulls in blog posts or whatever. And the cool thing too is you can not only can you take those from the ecosystem or use them, but like you can also combine them in some cases and stuff. So it's like, and it and there is a lot of GitHub Actions out there. I'm pretty confident that if you're like, I wonder if I could automate this, somebody's probably already done it. So
Yeah, and I think automations really help to take the pressure off of you to be able to do some of the things with the community too. And I know
yeah,
that that can be a challenge, being able to collaborate with other people, to communicate. And we've talked about this quite a bit, but there are people from different cultures and different time zones, and it can be a challenge. And so we really wanted to make sure that we also had sections on building and nurturing your community and kind of understanding that community, because it can be hard to identify those things. So we do have a section on metrics and analytics, and we find that to be a good way to grow into your project. So it might not necessarily be something that you need on day one, but when you get to the point where you're starting to recruit people to be on teams, which we have a whole chapter on, or you have a lot of contributors, then it can help you to save time too. So, it's another more of those powerful tools to have in your toolbox to be able to save time for the things that you can't automate, right? So, all of that stuff I think is really important in understanding, and like knowing that this tooling is available to you too. So, I really liked being able to talk about setting up your team and having that chapter included as well, because I think for a lot of folks who are starting off their projects, they're like, oh, you can set up teams. What does that mean? Why would you set up a
yeah,
team? And we know that maintainer burnout is a huge problem. And I think that, knowing how to find support and knowing how to organize that support in a way that benefits you, instead of like, the expression in the US is herding cats. I don't know how well that translates other places, but essentially, like, you can't herd cats, right? They're all going to go wherever they want to go, and it's a losing battle. I'm using too many metaphors here. Like, you could never get all of the cats together. We fostered a bunch of little kittens recently, like 6 kittens
yeah,
and 2 moms, and we literally lost one of the moms in our ceiling for 6 days. So we don't want that to happen to you. We
yeah,
did get her out safe and sound, just in case you were wondering.
yeah. Just to be clear, yeah, yeah. No cats are still in my attic. Yes. All right, check.
They are not. If they are, they're probably my own cats, but that's okay. They'll come out for food. Um, yeah,
Man.
exactly. Knowing that some tool exists is, useful and important, and understanding. Yeah, getting lost in the ceiling it's not fun.
Uh, Yeah.
You
I,
waste a
I
lot of time when cats are lost in the ceiling, and I think I mean that
yeah.
literally and metaphorically. So if you've
Yeah,
got
well,
somebody on your team that's lost in the ceiling, it's going to be hard for you to track them down. I feel like that's a really
yeah,
good metaphor actually for asynchronous communication and being online. Like you don't know where everybody is at any time. They
yeah,
could be lost in the ceiling. So how
yeah,
do you communicate with them in an asynchronous environment? So we got you covered for that. But if you
yeah.
need covered
So
for getting a cat out of your ceiling, humane raccoon traps also and tuna, that
yeah.
works too.
Also, I don't know if the Wi-Fi signal is too good in the attic. It depends where you put your router, I guess. But and and I'm pretty sure growing up, my mom said, "Now, when you grow up, don't get stuck in an attic." I don't know. I guess family family tradition. I guess I don't know. But anyways,
Okay, so we have you covered for all of these things, and I don't have a good segue to what's next. Um, let's see. Oh, I don't know. Okay, maintaining. Do you want to click on the maintaining code quality and documentation link on the left, Nick?
yep. Here we go.
Well, it's on my left. I don't know if it's on your left.
I hope it's on my left because that's gonna mess up the rest of my day if it isn't.
Okay, so we have this section as well. I'm not sure who wrote this section. Do you, IU or
I
Jessica,
think
was it
we
you?
both did at some
Yeah,
point, or we like
yeah.
kind of like I think we both like opened up PRs and like kept reworking it or something like that. So I feel like it was like a collaborative effort. Like one of us put in a PR, then another one like added to it or something later on. So yeah, but I like the section too though. So.
Okay, well, do you want to start us off talking about this section, Jessica?
Sure, sure. Yeah. So, like, a main part of being a maintainer is, of course, reviewing the PRs that come in, and I think that I really like this because it's you're the last like person, or if you have like a small group of maintainers that work with you, like you're the last person before it goes in to be merged into the project. And so we kind of just talk about how to maintain and properly communicate like what we're expecting with these different PRs. And a lot of that starts with the actual PR template and making sure all of the information is there so we can adequately review it. And so I know with like free CodeCamp, sometimes people just don't fill out the PR template, and sometimes people just like whip up a PR or like, I don't know what this is. And so you just have to be patient with
Yeah,
people because a lot of times it's like their first time. So it's important not to like get angry and be like, why did you do this? You're just like, hey, could you fill this out? Because we need more information. Because most people aren't trying to be malicious and like just whip up PRs just to like upset you or anything. Like this is their might be their first time and they didn't read through like the documentation and stuff like that. And so you just want to be patient and working with them and be like, hey, could you fill this out or provide us with more information so we can work with you and understand kind of what some of these changes are all about. And I think that too, just kind of how to properly communicate during pull requests, how to leave a constructive review is really important because you don't want to be insulting, but you still want it to be constructive if there are changes. So you don't want to be like, hey, it looks good, but just change all this random stuff. Like you want to make sure that you frame it in the right type of mind. So I like how this kind of goes through all of that. And then also with like branch protection rules, so you can set that up on your GitHub settings for your project there. And so some projects will have multiple maintainers need to approve that particular PR, or you can set up other rules as well. And so it just kind of goes in to the different things that you should be looking out for to maintaining code quality, and then also with automated tests, just setting up that test suite there just to make sure, because sometimes you miss things, and so it's helpful to just have that automated test suite to check up on things and be like, oh yeah, so, this is failing, and then properly communicate why something is failing, because sometimes people aren't used to working with automated tests, and so they might just leave the PR there, and so you want to be able to communicate with them, be like, hey, it looks like this test is failing, and here's why, here's how you can fix it, or jump on our Discord and we could talk about it, or whatever your process is. You want to make sure you have all that outlined. But that's just a basic overview of kind of this overall section and how I think it's really helpful there. So.
hmm yeah. There's a comment on YouTube, Hijabi Coders, saying sometimes the PR template can be overwhelming, and I can feel that, but I think it's good to talk about that briefly, that like the PR or pull request template isn't meant to like be annoying. It's really getting back to not, if you're stuck in the attic, like Becca was saying, that asynchronous communication, like whoever is creating that pull request, unless it's like a core team member that you speak to frequently, you're realistically not gonna have like a back and forth conversation immediately. It's gonna be like, and there's time zones and stuff, so it could be like you ask a question and then a day later you get a response. So like the pull request template, and I think we touched on the issue templates too maybe already, but they're important because we're trying to gather as much information as possible, and it's really to help us and to help you get your contribution in. So
Yeah, and like some changes are obvious, like if you're fixing a typo or something like that, we could, look at it and be like, all right, cool. Or if you're making a couple of small code changes. But if you're making a lot of changes and there's not any context there, it's kind of hard for us to be like, hey, what's going on here? Let's
yeah.
talk about it. And so anytime you could just like fill out the template, that's a huge help to maintainers
Yeah.
there.
Lost my unmute button. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, all of these things again are so incredibly important. And also, I just want to say for everyone who is joining us or joined in late, this is day one of Open Sauce Lunch Week, where every day at lunchtime it's launch time, and we have launched our Becoming a Maintainer course today. So we're here talking about that. I'm the DevX lead at Open Sauce. Nick Nick, what is your title?
I'm just some guy here. No, I'm a senior I'm a senior software engineer over at Open Sauce, helping out build out the app and all kinds of stuff over there. So
And then we have with us today, we have Ayu and Jessica, who were major contributors to our open source or becoming an open source maintainer course. And we're talking through what that experience was like, creating the course together, the approach that we took, and we're walking through the course too. So you can find all of both of our courses at intro.opensauced.pizza. So definitely check those out, and feel free if you have feedback, open up an issue. We love to get feedback on these things because we want to keep improving it. And, part of what we're doing at Open Sauce is trying to build a path for new contributors and maintainers and creating a positive open source ecosystem. And so this is one of the ways that we're doing that. And that's why we're kicking off our launch week from the very beginning with a course that supports maintainers from day one. So maybe just stepping back a little bit into the creation of this course, Ayu and Jessica, what do you think the best part of creating this course was? And you're not allowed to say when it went live. That's cheating. So I think I don't want to take anybody else's answers. So I'll let Ayu go first if that's okay.
The best part is to collaborate with both of you and to learn so many things from both of you. And also, as I mentioned before, that I learned as well how to be a better maintainer from creating this course. Um, but if one thing that really made me happy is that I was able to finally like merge these two courses, intro and the becoming a maintainer course in one website. That's a huge learning curve for me because I never worked with Doxify, and yeah, I had to trial and error to do that.
Yeah, I feel like if anybody needs a Doxify expert, you can definitely hire Ayu because she had to explore a lot of different scenarios and situations and problem solve. And I do want to say it was no easy feat moving the course over because, like I said before, we developed this in a private repo and then we moved it over to our public repo. So there is a lot of thought process and like what is the best way to be able to do that. And also structurally, we had to change the way that the intro course was created as well, because we had only one course on that repository on and intro to .opensauce.pizza. And so not only was it just adding another course, it was reworking the entire structure of that repository, so we could now house 2 different courses in there, and have access to that for folks. So there was a lot of I think challenges that IU navigated to be able to make that happen. And when you're moving every file around in an entire repository, there's just a lot of double checking, triple checking that needs to be done because, some key thing might be broken because it didn't expect it to be in that place. So kudos to IU for making sure that that happened.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Jessica, what about you?
I think my favorite part was just like the actual beginning, because like we had like a general roadmap, but then I like how we didn't let like perfection stop us. And also it helped that we had that private repo, because it was like, all right, this is our general roadmap, we're just gonna start throwing some stuff up there, and then we'll just iterate from there. And I think that's like the best process, because you don't want to get stuck and be like, well, maybe we should do this or maybe we should do that. And it was nice to just be like, you know what, let's just start here and get stuff up there, and then we'll just update it along the way. And I think that actually helped with where we're at now, because it gave us a good starting place. And then once things started to form, but as you mentioned earlier, where we're like, oh, is this a little repetitive? Should this be its own separate chapter, or should this be rolled in over here? And so I kind of liked that process, because it kind of gave us the freedom to just like, keep updating and making changes along the way, as opposed to just talking and talking and talking, and then like nothing got done. And so I like that approach of like, let's just keep going and just like keep updating it. And I think we worked really well together. And yeah, I think I kind of like dropped off a little bit at the end there, because I got kind of wrapped up with pre-co camp stuff. But then it was great to, because I remember that one of those last conversations where like, how are we gonna get this with the intro? And I was like, I don't know. And then I look up and it's like already done. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad you guys figured that part out. So yeah, so I think it came together quite nicely there.
Yeah, I think that, the whole collaborative aspect was just such a good experience, and to be able to talk through things. And I think working with the two of you was very fantastic, because there was a trust that we had in being able to collaborate freely and to throw ideas out there, right? And I think that this was really helpful. It's like kind of meta, right? We're creating a course about being maintainers. So as we are being maintainers, we're writing about that. And I think that a lot of that actually made it into the course, because like you start to figure out these things like, oh, well, this was a challenge that we faced. And it was nice because like we trusted each other, and I think that we respect each other, all of us do. And so it made it easy to be like, oh no, I'm not sure that that's the right way to do it, what about this idea? And to be able to kind of like work through these different ideas, and then also have that reflected in your course, like this is how you talk to people, this is how you collaborate with other people. And I think that, you know if we find this course to be successful, which I already think that it is, I think it's a reflection of the team that created the course, because we were able to put these things into practice and then to bring that to the course, rather than having people that maybe aren't working together all the time. And we don't all work on the open source team. I'm the only one on the open source team of the three of us. But it definitely felt like we were a very cohesive team to be able to get this put together and to work through all of that. And I think that shows. So folks, if you do take this course, please again leave us feedback and share it with other people as well. I think that one of the things that we know about open source is that recognition is super important. And these women here did an amazing job of making sure that this course was available to you. And so, number one, like shout out to both IU and Jessica for doing that. But, other ways that you can recognize their hard work is giving them shout outs, taking the course and sharing it with other people. If you find the course to be beneficial and you have a blog, write about that experience, because anytime we get those shout outs or we hear like, oh, someone benefited, it helps us to understand like it was worth all of the time and the effort that we put into it. And whether it's this project or other projects that are in open source that you find to be useful and helpful, and maintainers to be useful and helpful, give them shout outs too. We actually have, wait, let me do OSS. oss.love is a project that we are a part of. So definitely check this out. I'm gonna try and drop it in the chat, but this is a really nice way
Yeah.
that you can add some show love for your favorite maintainers. You can send them a card. It's cute. I sent Nick one. Um, so check that out.
I sent you
It's
one
a
too.
really nice way to do it.
Yeah, it's a great site. Yeah, and Lynn Fisher there. I used to work with her at Netlify. She's super talented. This was a really cool project. Well, still is a cool project.
Extra cool because now open source is on board. All right. So before we head out, I just want to make sure that if there are any questions, please throw those in the chat and we'll try and get to them. We're streaming to 3 platforms, so I'm trying to figure out how to get the chat
Yeah,
from
yeah.
all 3 platforms.
Yeah, it's with all these I'm able to post it because I'm the one running it, but I can post it to YouTube and that's the only place actually you can't post it to Twitter, so I'm doing it manually. And LinkedIn, you have to do it manually as well. It's a multi-streaming thing, so if you are fumbling, that's the reason why. It's you have to go to all 3.
Yeah, it's a challenge. But so if you have questions, and if you do have a question, we didn't get to it, feel free to let us know what those questions are. We'll make sure that you get the answer. I do want to say that we have, if you take our maintainer course and you complete it, there is a guest book there, and that's part of one of the chapters. So you can add your project to the guest book, and we would love to know a little bit about your project and what you're doing. And so we can amplify that with others. Because again, back to this idea about recognition, we want to recognize what you put into your project and to see it in action. So there's a chapter called, hold on.
I dropped I shared the screen for it, so.
Oh, that's a different guest book. Sorry, Nick. We've got 2 guest
Oh,
books,
okay,
not to
okay.
make
Yeah.
it
Oh,
confusing.
There's a
I
chapter
didn't know
called
about the super
Maintainer's
squad.
Guest Book.
Okay.
So you can,
Is
if
that
you
in the
take our
doc?
contributor course, you can add yourself to that guest book, but we do have one that will go directly
Oh,
on
here we
this
go.
repository.
Is this it here? Well, this is the
Yeah,
docs.
yeah, that one.
Okay, I'll drop this
Yeah.
in the chat and people can go ahead and follow the links over. I'll go pop it over on the other platforms. Cool. And for good measure, all the folks over on LinkedIn as well. Here you go. Enjoy your hyperlinks. All right, cool.
Before we wrap up for the day, Ayu and Jessica, is there anything else that you want to share about the course or the experience or just in general about open source? And also give your own project a shout out if there's something you want to talk about. This is a fine time to do it too.
Yeah, I guess I'll I'll go first. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground with this course, and I'm excited that it's live and people can go through it and leave feedback, and hopefully it helps a lot of people. I think it will. And then I'll just shout out Free Code Camp because that's where I work. And so if you are learning how to code or you are just looking to take some other courses that we've been adding, you could check us out either on YouTube or freecodecamp.org. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, as for me is I'm really happy that this finally get launched, and I've been waiting for almost a month, I think, to wait for this to get launched. But yeah, I mean, I really hope that this will help lots of people because I understand that there are many of resources for contributing to open source, but there are not many resources for how to become a maintainer, right? So I really hope that this would help so many people.
Awesome. I also just want to give a shout out to Becca before we wrap up. Becca's been basically managing the whole lunch week. I know we're only day 1, but I'm gonna give you a shout out every day. So here's the first shout out for Becca. So All right.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks to the whole team for working hard on this. Thanks to Jessica and IU. Definitely give them a follow. They're doing really great stuff and supporting so many people. So just want to make sure that they get recognized for all of the hard work they put in. And as Nick said, today is Monday of lunch week. Huge shout out to Nick for on his day off, still streaming with us and getting things sorted. I appreciate it. It made my life way easier to have him here. It's always great to have Nick, but this is about it for today. But it's day one, like Nick said, of lunch week, and so we're going to be serving up delicious features every day of this week at lunchtime. It might not be your lunchtime, but it's somebody else's lunchtime, so we're going with that. It will be every day at 12 p.m. Central Time. You can find us streaming on every single day this week. We're serving up something new and tasty. So definitely grab your fork, sit down, and join us as we live stream and reveal all of the cool stuff we've been cooking up at OpenSauce for the open source community.
Cool. All right. Take care, everybody.